I never believed in monsters. I didn't buy into ghost stories or urban legends. Growing up in the Midwest, I was surrounded by woods, dense forests, quiet lakes, and miles of untouched land. And while they were beautiful, I had always approached them with respect, not fear. But something happened to me on one of my solo hiking trips that changed all that. I can't explain it, but I knew what I saw, and I knew it was real. It all started when I decided to go for a solo camping trip. I needed some time away from the noise of the city, a chance to reconnect with the nature and escape the distractions of modern life. I had been on camping trips before, but this one would be different. This time, I was going to hike deeper into the woods that I never had before gone into. It was late November, and the cold had settled into the air, but I didn't mind that. I packed my gear, a tent, sleeping bag, essential foods, and a knife, and set off. The sun had already dipped below the horizon by the time I reached the spot that I planned to camp. I wasn't exactly sure where I was. I hadn't marked the trail. I was far from any kind of established campsite. But that's the part of the thrill. There's something about being completely alone, surrounded by nothing but trees and silence, that makes everything feel sharper. I had no phone, no GPS, just the sound of the crunching leaves beneath my boots and the occasional crack of a distant branch, and the usual forest sounds. The campsite was by a small creek, the water rushing over rocks, providing a peaceful soundtrack to my solitude. The trees around me were sparse. Most had shed their leaves already, leaving bare branches reaching into the night sky like skeletal hands. It felt empty, devoid of life. A quiet, still coldness hung in the air, a sharp contrast to the noise of the city I had left behind. As I set up my camp, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right around me. The wind was unusually quiet, the woods unnaturally still. Usually at night, in the woods, there's the sound of critters moving about, the rustling of animals in the underbrush, the chirp of insects, and the distant call of an owl. But that night, all of that was missing. The air was thick, almost suffocating. I tried to shrug it off at first. The fire I started flickered in the dark, the warmth offering some comfort. I ate a quick meal of hydrated food, watching the flames dance in the fire pit. But still, I couldn't shake the unease crawling at the edge of my mind. Then came the noise. At first, I thought it was the wind or some animal moving through the woods, but the sound was wrong. It was soft, shuffling, like something dragging itself across the ground. I strained my ears, trying to locate the source, but the noise seemed to come from all around me. It wasn't the light scurrying of small animals. It was something heavy and slow, something much larger than a deer. My heart rate picked up as the sound grew closer. The darkness around the campsite deepened, and the shadows shifted. I told myself it was just an animal, a bird, maybe or a large wolf, but deep down I knew it wasn't. It couldn't be. It doesn't sound like it. After looking around, I stood up, gripping my flashlight, my fingers trembling as I shined it around the clearing. Nothing, just trees out there. But I could feel it, the presence, like something was watching me from beyond the light. The hair on my hand stood up, and my breath caught in my chest. The shuffling stopped, and in the eerie silence that followed, I heard something like a low and guttural groan. It was barely audible, but unmistakable at the same time. I froze in my place, my flashlight shaking in my hand. It didn't sound like any animal I knew. It was more like a person, but wrong, twisted. After a few moments later, the sound came again, but closer this time. And then I saw it. It was on the edge of the firelight at first, a tall, dark shape that moved with an unnatural grace. My heart skipped a beat as I realized it wasn't an animal. It was humanoid, but there was something deeply wrong with it. It stood at least 8 feet tall, its form skeletal and gaunt. And on its head it had something like antlers. Its limbs were long and twisted, joints bending at angles they shouldn't. The body was covered in patches of matted fur, but in the places where the fur had worn away, I could see the pale, sickly skin beneath it, stretched tight over the bones. Its face was the worst part. It had the face of a man, but it wasn't human. The eyes were wide, black and empty, no pupils at all, just hollow pits staring into me. Its mouth was wide, impossibly wide, its lip pulled back, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth, each one yellowed and broken. The teeth looked like they were made from bones, not flesh. I could see its breath, a thick, misty cloud in the cold air, as it exhaled in the shallow, rasping gaps. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. It was like my body was locked in place, frozen in terror. It didn't make any noise at first, just stared at me, its eyes dark and unblinking. Then it tilted its head, slowly and deliberately, like it was studying me, like it was savoring my fear. Then the voice came. It wasn't a voice in the traditional sense. It was more like a whisper mixed with growling. The sound so deep that I could feel it in my chest. It wasn't saying anything I could understand, just guttural, inhuman sounds coming out from his mouth. But the worst part was the tone. The voice was hungry. It made my skin crawl. It was as if this thing had been waiting for something to wander into its territory. It took a step forward towards me, and that was when my survival instincts kicked in. I grabbed my knife, though I knew it wouldn't much of a help against something like that. I didn't even think. I turned and bolted into the woods, running as fast as I could. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away from the thing. The sound of its breath, wet and ragged, followed me through the woods, growing closer with every step I took. My feet stumbled over roots and rocks, my body screaming in pain as I pushed myself forward. But I couldn't stop. The woods seemed endless, the trees stretching on and on in every direction. I ran for what it felt like hours, until my legs felt like they might give up. My breath was ragged, my heart pounding in my chest, but the sound of its pursuit never stopped. It was always there, just behind me. Its steps so heavy that I could feel the ground tremble. And then I heard it, the screech. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't a howl. It was something worse. A high-pitched, bone-chilling screech that sounded like nails on a chalkboard, but deeper, coming from the very bolts of hell. It filled the air, vibrating through my bones, and I thought I might collapse from the terror of it. I had to get out from there. I had to survive this. Finally, after what felt like eternity, I stumbled out of the forest into a clearing. I could barely see, my flashlight long gone, but I kept running. I didn't know how far I ran, but eventually I hit the road. Then I saw headlights passing by, and without thinking, I jumped in front of a car, waving my arms frantically. The driver slammed on the brake, staring at me in shock. I don't even know what I looked like. Wild-eyed, covered in dirt, and panicking, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from there. They gave me a ride to the nearest town, but I knew they didn't believe me. But I can't blame them. It was unreal what just happened to me. I just told them to take me to a motel. After reaching there, I locked myself in a room, shaking the adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I never went back to those woods. I don't know what I saw that night. It wasn't a bear or a wolf or anything I could explain. It was something ancient, something hungry. A Wendigo maybe? Or something else. I don't know. But I will never forget the way it looked at me, the way it moved, and the hunger in its eyes. So, if you are out there in the woods, alone, and you hear something dragging itself towards you, don't just wait for something to show up. Just run. Be careful out there. Hope you guys like this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to this channel and enable the bell icon so you don't miss new uploads. And also check out other videos in this channel too. Like them and share them. And if you have any suggestions or any improvements I need to make in this channel, please post them in the comment section. Till next time, this is Malayali Wendigo. Bye.